What if everything you've been told about presence, about charisma, about making people like you, has been a lie? What if the real power was not in being admired, but in being unreadable, so controlled, so contained, that others tremble not because of what you show, but because of what they cannot see? The world praises transparency, confidence, and openness, but these are the very traps that strip you of mystique. Understand this: when you expose your entire self to others, you give them weapons. When you make yourself easy to read, you make yourself easy to control. The aura that terrifies people is not born from words, nor from the loud display of confidence, but from the silence that hangs over a man who does not need to explain himself. It is the quiet certainty, the stillness that feels like a storm waiting behind locked doors, the gaze that suggests calculation rather than impulse. Every culture celebrates the smiling, the open, the endlessly expressive man, but what happens to him in the arena of power? He is dissected, consumed, and thrown aside. Men judge more with their eyes than with their hands, and the eyes are drawn not to what is obvious, but to what is concealed. Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. Thus, the first principle of terrifying aura is control over appearance. Not honesty, not authenticity, but precision. You must learn to craft an exterior that is calm, deliberate, and sparse. When you walk into a room, you do not flood it with words, you let silence stretch, so every sound you eventually make is heavy with weight. The man who commands attention without demanding it is the man others fear. He makes no attempt to be loved, for love is fragile. He builds the aura of fear, for fear never leaves the bones once it has settled there. History has proven this again and again. Cesare Borgia, a man born not of chance but of ruthless design, understood that his aura alone could paralyze men. He executed cruelty swiftly through others, and when the stench of tyranny threatened his reputation, he cleansed it with an execution of his own lieutenant. Thus, people saw a man who appeared both merciful and merciless, who seemed above weakness, who lived with the aura of inevitability. It was not his sword that terrified, but his ability to withhold expression. A silent nod could seal the fate of an entire city. Contrast him with the naive ruler who must shout his intentions, justify his decisions, beg for approval. The more he speaks, the smaller he appears. The man who terrifies is the man whose silence makes others invent horrors in their imagination, for the mind of your enemy is always more vivid than your own tongue. In our age, the trap is even greater, because society worships exposure. They tell you to share, to post, to document every movement, to confess every thought in public squares built of glass. But remember this: transparency is not power, it is surrender. Every confession you make to the world is an offering of your own sovereignty. You give away pieces of yourself until nothing remains but a hollow shell that others manipulate for amusement. The aura that terrifies people cannot exist in a man addicted to visibility. He must retreat into controlled shadows, allowing only glimpses, only fragments, never the whole picture. The dangerous man is not the one who reveals. It is the one who withholds, who makes others wonder what lies behind the curtain. In a time when everyone rushes to be known, the man who refuses becomes magnetic, untouchable, feared. Consider the battlefield of perception as if it were a silent war room. A general does not reveal his strategy to his soldiers in full. He gives them enough to act, but never the blueprint. Why? Because mystery keeps men alert, uncertain, disciplined. So too with aura. The man who terrifies is the man who never lets his true hand be seen. He creates the impression of layers, depths, reserves of strength that cannot be measured. His enemies will hesitate, second-guess, overestimate him, and in hesitation lies his advantage. You do not need to be a god to inspire fear. You only need others to believe you are more than you appear. Aura is built not on truth, but on perception. You appear calm when chaos brews inside. You appear certain when you are calculating. You appear unbothered when you are watching. This dissonance creates an aura that others cannot decode, and in not knowing, they tremble. The psychology of fear rests on the unknown. Men are not afraid of the lion they see charging. They are afraid of the rustle in the grass, of the shadow they cannot place, of the silence that precedes violence. The aura that terrifies is born from this principle: you must become the shadow. Speak less than necessary. Reveal nothing you do not need. Control your gestures, your gaze, your pace of movement, until others begin to read into you what you have never said. They will invent motives, magnify your presence, imagine storms where there are none. This is the power of aura. It makes others do the work for you. They build your legend. They exaggerate your strength. They spread your name as if it were a warning. When they cannot place you, they will fear you. When they cannot predict you, they will respect you. When they cannot measure you, they will magnify you. But let us be clear, aura is not costume, it is discipline. It is not about dressing in black robes or staging theatrics. These are signals of the insecure. True aura comes from restraint, from never explaining more than you must, from refusing to bow to the demands of others for validation, from carrying yourself as if you already know the outcome before the game begins. It is in the unhurried walk, the unwavering eye, the refusal to flinch or scramble. The terrifying man is not the loudest, nor the strongest, but the one who appears inevitable. Like a storm seen from a distance, you cannot stop him, you cannot bargain with him, you can only prepare for his arrival. Such a man terrifies not because of what he does, but because of what he makes others believe he could do. The greatest aura is not the sword drawn, it is the hand resting calmly on the hilt, unmoved, unreadable, inevitable. When a man learns to master his presence, he discovers that words are often his greatest enemy. Words dilute mystery. They give the audience more than they deserve, more than they can handle. To terrify with aura is to speak rarely, and when you do, to make every syllable heavy with consequence. Imagine two rulers, one who explains every decision, justifies every move, tries to win approval through persuasion, another who says almost nothing, whose silence forces others to imagine his intentions, whose decrees arrive without debate. Which ruler inspires more fear? Which one lingers in the mind long after he has left the room? The second, always. For people fear what they do not know, and when you leave silence where there should be speech, they fill it with their own anxieties. This is why restraint is the foundation of aura. To terrify is not to overwhelm, but to starve others of certainty. In the courts of power, nothing is more fatal than transparency. Those who expose themselves become easy prey. Think of Oliverotto da Fermo, who invited the leading men of his city to a banquet, feasted them with laughter and wine, and then, at the height of their trust, had them murdered on the spot. He understood the principle, appearances deceive, and in the contrast between hospitality and betrayal lies terror. His aura came not from the knife, but from the fact that no one could guess what he was capable of. Aura is born in unpredictability. If people can read you, they will dismiss you. If they cannot, they will fear you. This is why Machiavelli himself wrote that men should either be caressed or crushed. Anything in between invites rebellion. So too with your aura. It must never waver, never expose weakness, never give others a pattern they can rely upon. You must therefore train yourself to weaponize the unknown. This does not mean becoming theatrical, for theatrics breed mockery. It means becoming precise. If your presence is calm, let it be unnervingly calm. If your gaze is direct, let it hold longer than comfort allows. If your silence stretches, let it hang heavy until others break it for you. The terrifying aura is not crafted through excess, but through subtraction. The fewer signals you send, the more others will amplify them in their minds. A wolf need not roar to command respect. His stillness is enough to signal the violence he carries within. The fox that watches without blinking is feared more than the dog that barks. Understand this. The more others project onto you, the more control you have over them. Aura is a mirror. You offer little, they see everything. Modern life makes this even more essential, for the temptation to display is constant. Social platforms reward exposure, and men mistake this for power. But what is constant exposure except voluntary surveillance? The man who cannot resist showing his face, his thoughts, his pleasures, his plans, has no aura. He has given it all away for nothing. Compare him with the man who shows nothing. A blank page terrifies more than a book, for on the blank page the mind writes nightmares. In relationships, in business, in politics, those who give away too much are forgotten. Those who remain concealed become legends. Reputation does not require endless proof, it requires scarcity. When you appear rarely, when your words are few, when your movements are deliberate, you create demand. Demand creates mystique. Mystique creates fear. Fear creates aura. The psychology behind this is simple. Men are guided more by imagination than by fact. Show them your strength, and they will calculate its limits. Conceal it, and they will imagine it infinite. Show them your emotions, and they will measure your vulnerabilities. Conceal them, and they will wonder whether you have any at all. Show them your ambitions, and they will conspire against them. Conceal them, and they will not know where to strike. Aura thrives on concealment. The terrifying man is a labyrinth. You enter, but you cannot find the center. The longer people search for your truth, the more they exhaust themselves. They will overthink, overanalyze, and in that exhaustion they will yield. Remember this: people are more afraid of their own imagination than they are of your reality. Your job is not to correct them, but to feed the silence that allows their imagination to destroy them. Think of the battlefield again. A general who moves his troops openly invites anticipation. A general who moves in silence, who conceals his march, who strikes without warning, infects the enemy with terror before the battle even begins. In strategy, as in life, the unseen move terrifies more than the visible one. Your aura must mimic this principle. Do not let people predict your steps. Do not reveal your patterns. Appear indifferent when you are calculating, amused when you are serious, silent when you are plotting. In every interaction, let there be a gap between what they expect and what you deliver. That gap is where fear grows. That gap is the abyss of uncertainty, and it is in that abyss that your aura becomes unshakable. A man with an aura that terrifies people is not untouchable because of strength alone. He is untouchable because others cannot see where to strike. He is the fortress without gates, the shadow without a form, the storm without a sound. He does not chase approval, because approval is noise. He does not chase exposure, because exposure is weakness. He carries himself with the inevitability of fate, and that inevitability forces others to respect him. When you master this, you will not need to announce your power. Others will whisper it for you. They will warn one another in hushed tones. They will study your silence like scripture. They will create the legend of you long before you even arrive. And that, more than any word or gesture, is the essence of aura. The most dangerous man in any room is not the one shouting, not the one gesturing wildly, not the one demanding to be noticed. It is the one who does nothing, yet pulls all attention to himself. This is the essence of aura, effortless gravity. It is cultivated through discipline, through the suppression of impulse, through the mastery of expression. When others laugh, you measure. When others rush to speak, you withhold. When others expose themselves in desperation to be understood, you remain unknowable. This contrast creates an imbalance so profound that those around you begin to orbit you like planets around a silent sun. And remember, what cannot be explained must be feared. Your stillness is interpreted as power, your quiet as calculation, your restraint as superiority. The man who terrifies is not the man who shows the most, but the one who forces others to wonder what remains unseen. History is full of such figures. Agathocles of Syracuse was not noble by birth, but he seized power by slaughtering the elite of his city in one decisive stroke during a banquet. His power did not come from lineage, but from unpredictability and ruthless precision. His aura was built in a single night, for men understood he was willing to do what they themselves could not imagine. Aura is not about theatrics. It is about convincing others that you are capable of reaching depths they cannot fathom. The more others believe you capable of decisive cruelty, the less they will dare test you. Fear is not maintained by constant demonstrations of violence. It is maintained by the memory of one unforgettable act. Once people have seen how far you will go, your aura lingers even when your sword is sheathed. Modern men misunderstand this. They think power comes from constant validation, from proving themselves daily, from never letting the world forget their names. But repetition breeds contempt. The man who shouts every day becomes predictable, and predictability is the death of fear. A terrifying aura is sustained not by repetition, but by scarcity. Appear less, speak less, reveal less. And when you do act, let the act be so sharp, so decisive, that it imprints itself like a scar in memory. One cut is enough if it is deep enough. Aura is not built by constant noise, but by silence interrupted by lightning. It is the silence of the night sky torn open by thunder that terrifies, not the endless chatter of birds. Learn to become thunder. Psychologically, this works because humans dread uncertainty more than pain. Pain can be endured, explained, catalogued. Uncertainty gnaws. It prevents rest. It multiplies itself in imagination. It turns every glance into suspicion, every silence into omen. If people cannot read you, they will imagine what you withhold. They will overestimate your power, exaggerate your reach, whisper your name in fear. This is why Machiavelli taught, that men judge more with their eyes than with their hands. They do not measure reality, they measure impressions. By controlling what they see, you control what they believe, and by controlling what they believe, you control their behavior. Aura, then, is not about reality at all, it is about engineering perception. Consider the imagery of the fox and the lion. The lion terrifies with strength, the fox with cunning. But the man who combines both creates an aura beyond measure. Strength without cunning becomes predictable. Cunning without strength becomes mockery. But when men suspect that beneath your silence lies both, they will hesitate to confront you. This is why aura terrifies. It suggests unseen reserves. The man who never shows his full hand forces others to wonder what remains concealed. And the human mind, when left in uncertainty, will always imagine the worst. You must therefore cultivate both sides in secrecy, allowing only hints to slip through, never the whole. Let them see the flash of the lion's fang, the glint of the fox's eye, but never the full beast. This principle extends to every arena. In negotiations, the man who reveals his desperation loses. In relationships, the one who overshares becomes disposable. On social stages, the one who constantly explains himself is quickly dismissed. But the one who withholds, the one who does not bend to the hunger for validation, becomes terrifying. People wonder what he truly feels, what he truly wants, what he is capable of. They begin to fear his silence, for silence cannot be contradicted. This is why aura terrifies. It creates a battlefield where the enemy fights shadows, not soldiers. And against shadows, no victory feels secure. The aura you must cultivate is not the costume of power, but its essence. Walk as if time itself bends to your pace. Speak as if every word is law. Gaze as if you see more than others dare to admit. This is not arrogance, it is inevitability. The terrifying man is not a man who pretends he is a man who embodies discipline so deeply that every gesture, every pause, every silence is deliberate. Others will sense this, though they cannot name it. They will feel it as weight, as gravity, as something unshakable. They will not love you for it, but they will not forget you either. And in the end, it is better to be feared than to be forgotten. The aura that terrifies does not announce itself with noise, but seeps into the minds of others like a slow poison. It is not a crown placed on your head, nor applause echoing through the streets. It is the unsettling awareness that you move differently, think differently, and refuse to play by the same rules as the herd. Most men crave approval. They chase it like starving dogs chase scraps. They bark, they pant, they beg for recognition, and in their desperation, they become predictable. The terrifying man has no such hunger. He carries himself as if nothing outside himself is needed, as if he is already complete, already inevitable. This absence of need creates unease, for people are disturbed by the man who cannot be bribed, flattered, or cajoled. They sense in him a self-sufficiency that renders them irrelevant, and irrelevance is a wound to the ego deeper than insult. Thus, your aura is not only a weapon of intimidation, it is a mirror that reveals the emptiness of those around you. The power of aura is most visible in betrayal. Men believe in loyalty, yet loyalty is the most fragile contract in existence. It exists only so long as fortune favors you. The moment your downfall benefits them, your so-called allies will abandon you without hesitation. This is why Machiavelli taught that loyalty is not a virtue but a calculation. When you understand this, your aura becomes untouchable, for you no longer depend on bonds that others can break. You move with the calm of a man who expects betrayal, who has already accounted for it, who is neither shocked nor wounded when it arrives. This terrifies because most men cannot imagine such detachment. They live chained to expectations, and when they see someone who has freed himself from them, it unsettles them. The man who anticipates betrayal is the man who cannot be destroyed by it, and in that invulnerability lies the essence of aura. Consider Ferdinand of Spain, who cloaked conquest in the robe of religion. He launched wars not under the banner of ambition, but of faith, and in this way secured obedience from the people while advancing his power. His aura was not in his armies alone, but in the impression that he served a cause beyond himself. This principle applies even now. The man whose aura terrifies is the man who makes others believe he moves with inevitability, as if fate itself is on his side. His silence becomes prophecy, his presence destiny. Whether true or not is irrelevant. Perception is stronger than fact. Men submit not to reality, but to the shadow cast by reality. To master aura, you must cast your shadow long enough to cover their doubts, and in that shadow they will kneel. Psychologically, this functions because men dread uncertainty more than pain. To live in the presence of a man whose motives are unclear, whose strength is unfathomable, whose patience is limitless, is to live in a state of perpetual unease. They will hesitate before crossing you, delay before opposing you, question before confronting you. That hesitation is victory. Aura paralyzes action before the battle even begins. The greatest generals in history conquered not by force alone, but by infecting their enemies with fear. The thought of facing them was often more terrifying than the battle itself. The enemy surrendered not to the sword, but to the imagination of the sword. So too with you. The aura you carry must make others surrender before they strike, doubt before they decide, hesitate before they act. This is why appearances matter more than reality. Men judge more with their eyes than with their hands. They will not test the strength of your fortress if it appears unbreakable. They will not challenge your silence if it feels like calculation. They will not oppose you openly if your aura suggests that retribution will be swift and merciless. Remember the law: do all the harm at once, but distribute benefits gradually. If you are forced to strike, strike so decisively that no one forgets. Your aura is reinforced not by constant cruelty, but by cruelty so sharp, so unforgettable, that men hesitate for the rest of their lives. They remember not the act itself, but the silence that surrounded it, the calm inevitability that preceded it. They begin to believe you are not a man at all, but a force, something elemental, something beyond negotiation. The terrifying aura also thrives on contrast. Appear merciful in public, but be merciless in private when necessity demands it. Appear calm, but let a single act reveal how far you will go when provoked. The unpredictability of contrast magnifies fear, for it denies people the ability to categorize you. A ruler who is always cruel becomes predictable. A man who is always merciful becomes weak, but the one who appears merciful yet proves merciless when pressed terrifies, for no one knows which face will greet them next. You must cultivate this duality, the lion and the fox, the caress and the crush, the mask of virtue and the dagger behind it. The more layers they perceive, the less they will risk confrontation. In mystery lies fear, and in fear lies control. In the end, aura is not about volume, but about silence. Not about force, but about restraint. Not about proving, but about suggesting. The terrifying man is a shadow that grows longer as the light fades, an unanswered question, a presence that lingers when he has left. He does not chase recognition, because recognition is a confession of need. He does not explain himself, because explanation is submission. He moves as if guided by inevitability, as if every gesture was already decided by history. And in this he terrifies, because men cannot fight inevitability, they can only submit to it. To master aura is to become that inevitability, to embody the storm that others see on the horizon but cannot escape. The aura that terrifies is not a performance. It is the steady erosion of illusions until only inevitability remains. Men build stories in their heads about who you are, what you want, what you might do, and when you give them nothing to contradict. Those stories grow into legends. Legends are far more powerful than facts. A fact can be challenged, argued, disproven. A legend is untouchable because it exists in the imagination of the people, and imagination is always more dangerous than truth. If you want an aura that terrifies, you must stop feeding people facts. Give them fragments, silences, gestures, and let them create their own fiction about you. In those fictions, you will always loom larger than life, always more ruthless than reality, always more dangerous than you actually are. Fear makes men exaggerate you, and their exaggeration will become your shield. This is why Machiavelli said it is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. Love demands constant feeding. It dies when you neglect it. Fear endures in silence. A ruler who bases his aura on love will lose it the moment fortune turns against him. But a ruler who bases his aura on fear can disappear into silence, and his presence will still haunt the minds of his enemies. Think of the tyrant whose cruelty is remembered long after he is dead. His bones may be dust, but men still lower their voices when they speak his name. That is aura. It outlives flesh, it survives absence, it lingers like smoke in the air. Men may try to love a ghost, but they will always fear one. To cultivate such an aura requires discipline that most cannot endure. It means withholding when others crave exposure, refusing when others demand reaction, controlling your impulses when others indulge theirs. In the age of noise, silence is violence. In the world of endless opinions, detachment is dominance. Every man with a tongue wishes to be heard, but the man who does not care to be heard is the man who terrifies. For he has broken the chain that binds ordinary men, the need for validation. When you no longer seek it, others cannot control you, and when others cannot control you, they fear you. Fear begins where control ends. The battlefield offers the clearest parable. When the Romans conquered a city, they sometimes destroyed it entirely, burning it to ash, leaving nothing but memory. Why? Because a city that has been crushed does not rise again. The aura of Rome was built not only on legions, but on the inevitability of their vengeance. Everyone understood. Resistance would not be punished lightly, but obliterated. This is why Machiavelli counseled that cities accustomed to freedom must either be destroyed or ruled directly. Half measures invite rebellion, so too with aura. If you must act, act in such a way that no one doubts your resolve. Half cruelty makes you hated. Complete cruelty makes you feared and respected. The terrifying aura comes not from cruelty itself, but from the certainty that when the time comes, you will not hesitate. Psychologically, this aura feeds on insecurity. Every man fears being outmatched, exposed, dominated. When you present yourself as unbothered, untouched, unreadable, you force their insecurities to the surface. They begin to doubt themselves in your presence. They second-guess their words, their movements, their intentions. The aura that terrifies is not the one that screams, but the one that makes others feel small without a word spoken. Your silence becomes a mirror, and in it, they see their own weakness. They fear you not because you tell them to, but because they feel it. Once a man feels inferior in your presence, he will never again see you as his equal. Aura is not about claiming superiority, it is about making others feel it. Do not mistake this for arrogance. Arrogance is noise, and noise destroys aura. The terrifying man is not loud, not boastful, not flamboyant. He is precise, deliberate, and detached. He wears his strength like a hidden blade, felt but not seen. His victories speak louder than his tongue, his discipline louder than his laughter. He is not desperate to be known, he is content to be feared. And in that contentment lies the true mastery of aura. He knows that every time he withholds, every time he restrains, every time he walks away without explaining, his legend grows. The world despises what it cannot control, but it fears it more. And fear, more than any weapon, will protect him. So cultivate this discipline. When provoked, do not scramble to defend yourself. When insulted, do not rush to reply. When challenged, do not reveal your full hand. Let silence do the work. Let uncertainty gnaw at their confidence. Let fear grow in the cracks of what they cannot see. Your aura must not be an act, but a law. The law that says, I do not move unless I choose. I do not speak unless I decide. I do not reveal unless it serves me. The world will tremble, not because of what you have shown them, but because of what you have withheld. And when they fear what they cannot know, you have already won. The aura that terrifies is not built in the noise of crowds, but in the solitude of self-mastery. It begins where most men fail, alone, in silence, in the discipline no one else sees. A man who cannot control himself cannot control others. A man enslaved to impulse, to anger, to lust, to validation, will never carry an aura that unsettles. He may bluster, he may shout, he may intimidate for a moment, but his power dissolves as soon as his weakness is exposed. Aura demands restraint. It demands the ability to feel the urge to reveal, to react, to prove, and to deny that urge. Every time you restrain, you sharpen your aura. Every time you indulge, you weaken it. Men may lift weights to build muscle, but the man who terrifies builds silence into armor, discipline into a weapon, restraint into a shadow that unsettles everyone around him. In politics, this is why rulers who appear inscrutable terrify more than those who expose their every motive. Pope Alexander VI manipulated alliances not by showing his entire hand, but by keeping others guessing. His aura was strengthened by what he concealed, not by what he revealed. Men feared him not simply for his cunning, but because they never knew which side he would favor until it was too late. Aura thrives on this principle of uncertainty. You must become unreadable, so others cannot anticipate your moves. Even if your power is limited, the illusion that you could strike in any direction magnifies your presence. To terrify is not always to be stronger, but to appear inevitable. The chess player who hides his strategy makes his opponent question every piece on the board. Modern life strips men of this advantage because it pressures them to reveal everything. They are told to be authentic, to be transparent, to speak their truth. But what is authenticity in a world that rewards exposure? It is slavery to impulse. It is handing your enemies the blueprint to your weaknesses. Men who live this way will never terrify, because their aura has been dissolved into noise. The terrifying man refuses this. He lives with intention. He speaks when silence no longer serves him. He reveals only what strengthens his image. He is never pulled by demand. He pulls others into his orbit. Aura is about refusing to be consumed by the hunger of the world for endless exposure. You are not their entertainment, not their confession, not their spectacle. You are their uncertainty, their hesitation, their silent warning. This is why unpredictability magnifies aura. If men always know what to expect from you, they no longer fear you. Predictability breeds contempt. But when you are merciful one day and merciless the next, when you smile at one man and crush another, when you remain silent in one moment and strike with words in another, you become ungraspable. Men fear what they cannot classify. The ruler who mixes clemency with cruelty terrifies more than the one who is only cruel. The man who appears indifferent but reveals sudden ruthlessness is remembered forever. Your aura must be built on this tension, the knowledge that you may strike at any moment but never in the way they expect. A single act of decisive cruelty, followed by calculated mercy, leaves deeper fear than 1,000 acts of consistent behavior. Psychologically, this instability robs people of confidence. They cannot prepare for you because they do not know which version of you will appear, and so they hesitate, stall, weaken. Their strength dissolves into second-guessing, their confidence into paranoia. You control them not by chains, but by uncertainty. The aura that terrifies is not about dominating through force. It is about infecting others with doubt, so profound they sabotage themselves. The enemy becomes his own executioner, the rival his own undoing, and all you had to do was remain unreadable. This is why aura is more powerful than brute strength. Strength can be measured, tested, countered. Aura cannot. It is not a thing but a shadow, and shadows cannot be struck. Imagine yourself as a storm gathering on the horizon. The peasants look up and whisper. They do not know if it will pass quietly or shatter the earth beneath them. That uncertainty is what terrifies. You must become the storm that others cannot predict. Sometimes you withhold, sometimes you descend. Sometimes you caress, sometimes you crush. Sometimes you reward, sometimes you erase. Never explain, never justify, never beg to be understood. The more they demand clarity, the more you deny it. Aura thrives on ambiguity, and ambiguity breeds fear. You are not obligated to resolve their questions. In fact, your aura depends on leaving them unanswered. When you live this way, you stop playing the games of ordinary men. You stop scrambling for validation. You stop chasing applause. You stop bleeding your strength through explanations and defenses. You begin to move with the rhythm of inevitability, as if every step you take is ordained, as if resistance is already futile. This is the rhythm of kings, of conquerors, of men who leave silence in their wake like a mark of fate. Aura is not about being seen everywhere. It is about being remembered everywhere. You become the question no one can answer, the shadow no one can catch, the storm no one can predict. And in that uncertainty, in that inevitability, you terrify. Aura is not noise, not costume, not theatrics. It is inevitability clothed in restraint. It is the sensation that you cannot be moved, that you cannot be touched, that your presence bends the room without effort. Men who try to fake this with exaggeration, with forced stares, with empty gestures, betray themselves. Their performance cracks because it was built on insecurity. The terrifying man builds on silence, on mastery, on a stillness so complete it unnerves those who watch. He does not react to insult. He lets silence weigh heavier than any reply. He does not rush to prove himself. He knows that proof is weakness. He does not cling to the approval of others. He moves as if he already carries the crown. And in that refusal to bend, in that calm defiance of the noise that consumes lesser men, his aura becomes unshakable. This principle holds true across all ages. Think of the tyrant who does not need to raise his voice. for his silence makes men tremble. Think of the general whose soldiers obey not because of shouted orders, but because his very gaze makes hesitation impossible. Think of the ruler who smiles rarely, and whose rare smile terrifies more than another man's constant rage. Power is not shown by excess, it is shown by scarcity. The terrifying man does not flood the world with himself, he starves it, and in starvation, the world craves, imagines, and fears. When you are absent, they wonder where you are. When you are silent, they wonder what you think. When you are still, they wonder what you plan. You must become absence turned into presence, silence turned into weight, stillness turned into dread. That is aura. This is why you must master appearances. Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few know what you truly are. So make your appearance deliberate, precise, unyielding. Appear calm, even when chaos burns inside. Appear certain, even when the outcome is unclear. Appear unbothered, even when provoked. Men judge with their eyes, not their hands, so let their eyes deceive them. Give them the mask that terrifies more than your true face ever could. A wise prince ought never to keep faith when by doing so, it would be against his interests, and so too with appearance. Never reveal your full truth when deception serves you better. Your aura is not your reality, it is the mask you craft and hold until others no longer dare to look behind it. But aura is not only about what you project, it is about what you deny others. Deny them predictability, deny them clarity, deny them comfort. When men cannot classify you, they cannot control you, they will fear you, because fear grows in uncertainty. One day you are merciful, the next merciless. One day you smile, the next you stare with silence. One day you reward, the next you erase. This instability is not weakness, it is the foundation of aura. A man who is entirely merciful is weak. A man who is entirely cruel is predictable. But a man who is both, as necessity requires, is terrifying, for no one knows which hand he will extend next. Aura thrives on this duality. It is the caress and the crush, the mask of virtue and the hidden dagger, the lion's roar and the fox's cunning, fused into one. To live this way is to free yourself from the illusions that enslave ordinary men. You no longer expect loyalty, for you know it is temporary. You no longer demand love, for you know it fades. You no longer chase validation, for you know it weakens. You live above these things, detached, complete within yourself. And when others see this, it unsettles them. For most men live shackled to desire. They crave recognition, they bleed for approval, they beg for attention. To stand before them needing none of it is to terrify them. Your aura becomes a judgment, not through words, but through being. You expose their hunger by your indifference, their weakness by your restraint, their illusions by your silence. They will hate you for it, but they will fear you more. This is the final surge. Aura is inevitability. It is the storm seen from a distance, the silence before thunder, the shadow that grows longer as the sun sets. It is the man who walks into a room and makes the air heavier without speaking. It is the ruler who raises his hand and alters the fate of thousands with a gesture. It is the warrior whose calm gaze unsettles an army more than 1,000 shouts ever could. Aura is not built overnight, nor is it won through theatrics. It is earned through restraint, through discipline, through the refusal to bow to the impulses that consume lesser men. To terrify with aura is to live as if you are inevitable, as if fortune bends to you, as if resistance is already futile. And when you master this, you will not need to tell the world who you are. They will whisper it, they will fear it, they will remember it long after you are gone. So carry this truth with you. Do not speak more than you must. Do not reveal more than you need. Do not crave what others crave. Build silence into your armor, unpredictability into your weapon, inevitability into your presence. Let your aura grow like a shadow until it stretches beyond your reach, until it lingers when you leave, until it terrifies those who dare to look upon you. And when they whisper about you, when they warn one another, when they lower their eyes in your presence, you will know your aura has become your empire. If you've made it this far, it's because a part of you is already ready for this new path. A part of you has already understood that being loved means nothing if it requires abandoning yourself. True self-love begins the moment you choose yourself, even if it costs you being alone for a while. Now tell me in the comments, are you ready to be misunderstood, rejected, even hated in the name of your inner freedom? Are you willing to pay the price of being you? If this message touched you, if it made sense, write in the comments, "I choose my peace." Let's see how many here are truly ready for this transition. And don't forget, keep watching the next video. It's important, much more than you imagine. See you there.